Hi, welcome to the first module of the course, Rethinking Emergency Management in a Complex World. It is probably the case that you haven't had the time to review all the material yet, and I thought of recording this video as an introduction and give you maybe not so much my understanding of the material. I would like you to go through the material by yourself and watch the videos of our guest lecturers, but instead give you a little bit of maybe my understanding of where we are today with emergency management or disaster management, and maybe share with you a bit about the discipline itself. And at the same time, I think it will help you understand a little bit more about the way that I structure the course. So probably one of the first things that you will notice in the module, that we are trying to understand the historical sequence, the progression of the discipline from its early beginnings to till today. I think that's a valid point because, as we will see in a later module on the triple nexus, where we investigate and try to understand the connection between disaster management, humanitarian action, and other disciplines. Emergency management is very different from the others, but at the same time, it's kind of merging because it is the world, the chaotic world in which we live in today is demanding it. So emergency management progressed from its early origins, where in the post World War II era and all the way through the Cold War, where what governments wanted, especially the United States and Europe, had to do with preventing or being more prepared and in the eventuality of war and a nuclear attack, right? So what happened is that as time went on, the what was civil protection back then, the world and the powerful countries started to notice that there were other types of disruptions, such as earthquakes and other events from natural origins that would not be uh, managed quite well using those systems and those functions and those ways that the countries were preparing themselves for the event of war. So what happened is that the the discipline evolved a lot, but it was I think what is happening is that we are still stuck with the idea of management. And because of that, I think that is for most of us in this world is creating. I mean, we refuse or we just cannot move forward and change the name to the discipline. So we are still using the idea of emergency management, and because of that, most of the people in this field are still conceiving the discipline as kind of a response type of discipline, right? And that's why we have many doctors and firefighters and law enforcement, but the reality is that one of the things that you will see is that we are past that stage where we were thinking in terms of management, and now we are thinking in terms of system thinking and trying to understand how systems work. One thing that you will notice once we got into that module is that emergency management is the only one of the four disciplines that defines itself in terms of operational effectiveness, right? And and what that is a problem because differently to the other disciplines like humanitarian action and peace building, they are defining themselves more and more in terms of transforming the conditions and not solely or exclusively thinking in terms of managing something. So I guess that's kind of the most important message that I want to give you. I was very fortunate in my career to be part of different types of disruptions, and actually that word for me is the one that captures the most what we have to deal nowadays because we have all the way from pandemics and cyber attacks and climate change and ethnic conflict, and you name it. So um, the program that you are following correctly addresses the idea of emergency or disaster or emergency and humanitarian leadership, because it all comes down to that. It all comes down to this idea that what we need are a new cadre of leaders that are capable of moving forward this stage from managing things. And for that, one of well, that is going to be probably the most important challenge that you will face. But emergency management, regardless of how you call it, it will continue to be a discipline in itself, and it will continue to grow because the the events have to be managed, and but there is a tension that still all the way from scholars and practitioners are trying to resolve. So I hope that once you go into the literature and you review those recordings from our colleagues, you will understand or at least have a glimpse of the complexities of not just the world, but also the discipline that is facing, right? So we are going through a very difficult time for all disciplines because the world has become and is increasingly becoming more and more interconnected, and that affects a lot all disciplines. So, with this being said, thank you again for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.